love it when the Sims team get carried away, and right now it feels like they're getting carried away on surveys. It is enough surveys. It could actually never be enough surveys. I have said recently, I really miss the days when they were throwing out surveys to Simmers here, there, and everywhere. My favorites are obviously when we're talking about content that we would like to see within the game, and I'm fairly sure that's what both of these do. Now, I have actually done the survey that was relating to animations. However, the way that that was worded at like the beginning, it was basically, I'm fairly sure, from Sims Labs, where they actually, like, you can sign up for like playtesting and you can sign up for surveys and stuff. Now, I have never received a Sim Labs survey. I've never heard anything from Sims Labs since the moment I signed up, which isn't surprising when you think about probably how many Simmers did sign up. However, I didn't want to upload a video about that because it was like, please don't like share your answers. So I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to be very honest. I spoke about the overuse of the swipe animation, which I know a ton of you lot who probably also took that survey spoke about. I also spoke about like the lack of new, in particular, animations that came with the latest pack, which was of course Enchanted by Nature, and how I really liked the size down fairies, and I can imagine a lot of the animation went into that, but you can't really see where the rest of the animation budget went, especially when we technically already had the flying animation with like ghosts, etc. But there are in fact 2 new surveys which actually don't have that like please don't share. So I decided I'm gonna record this video for you all. We're gonna go over these. One of them was actually posted on the Sims Discord, and then the other one I actually just found on Twitter, but I will leave a link to both of them down below. Sims Discord, honestly, probably nowadays the best place to get your Sims news. Overall, how satisfied are you with your ability to visually reflect yourself or your community in The Sims 4? How your Sims look, dress, or decorate their house. Now, obviously, I am a gay cis white woman, so it is pretty easy for me to like recreate myself. However, it is definitely still not great when it comes to Black culture within The Sims 4. I feel as if they have not done enough on that. Yes, we get hairstyles, yes, we get free base game updates, but I want to see when it comes to clothing. Even my wedding stories didn't have any. I obviously always go on about Afro textured facial hairs as well. We have started to see a couple more of those, but they have been paid for in packs. I'm actually going to put slightly satisfied because I can make myself, but like I guess I'm not part of the community, but like my online community, yeah. Overall, how satisfied with how Sims 4 gameplay reflects yourself or your community in The Sims 4? I'm actually gonna slay slightly satisfied again. Slay. How important is it to you to have the following in your gameplay of The Sims 4? The tools to make Sims have similar hobbies as people from my background, culture, or community. I would say build and decorate buildings like people from my background, culture, or community. Mostly important for sure. Tools to make Sims have similar cultural background. I feel like you can kind of do that with your storytelling in the game. So I'm still gonna put mostly important, but I feel like out of all of them, maybe that one using imagination is maybe the easiest to do. The tools to make Sims that look like people from my background, extremely important. To dress people, extremely important. And tools to have similar qualities, traits, or aspirations, I'm gonna say also extremely important. Alongside this, I think they need to add more worlds. Again, Black Simmers have been talking about this an awful lot, but like an African themed world, a Caribbean themed world, like it really doesn't feel like that is something that they have hit on at all. And I think alongside the building and decorating, you actually need a world to place this stuff. How satisfied are you with how well you can currently do the following in The Sims 4? Honestly, I'm just gonna encourage every single person who is watching this who may be from a minority, please do this first survey. We need like the true authenticity of that diversity and those cultures speaking. Even this like similar cultural background. I mean, I have Henford on Bagley. I also feel like San Myshuno actually probably, I think, out of any of the worlds, because it's like so metropolitan, and I do feel like cities can feel similar and stuff, but that clearly had so much diversity in the clothing and also like the theming of it, but also felt like the most multicultural. Like it kind of feels like it can fit a lot of different vibes when it comes to cities. I just want to see more cities in general. But for this, like, obviously, I feel like mostly satisfied for me personally because I'm white. So obviously I do. Be it it's more an American suburbia than it is a UK suburbia. And then I can drive out into the countryside and like have Henford on Bagley, you know, and I can have a Coast of Admore. Make Sims that look like people from my background, culture, and community. Actually, I'm gonna say the UK is a melting pot of cultures, and I actually would just continue to love seeing more diversity in this game, and I don't think that we can do that, and I also don't think the clothes do that. I would say hobbies, slightly satisfied. Build and decorate buildings, no. And then qualities, traits, or aspirations, somewhat satisfied. I feel like qualities and traits and aspirations maybe are that little bit more generic. Here's me thinking that this video wouldn't take too long to record, and then so more when it comes to Black culture, worlds, build buy mode items, clothes all feel lacking, even with packs that do try to focus on it more, such as wedding stories. There aren't African inspired wedding outfits. Build mode items are good in theory for inclusion. Sometimes they're hard to use when you don't have worlds also inspired by those locations. More Caribbean and African inspired worlds. White players have so much more in terms of representation and recreating themselves, and every player deserves those same amount of options. Afro textured body hair and facial hairs have not been introduced into the game enough. Also, I would love some more collaborations with custom content creators who are Black and do bring that authenticity to their makeup and how it looks on Sims with darker skin tones. More curly, wavy, and kinky hairs and textures just needed in general. I do feel like a lot of like the curly or wavy ones have a lot more volume than I would like, which like I do think that they should be doing that, but also I would love to see it if they varied them a little bit more. I recently felt that the one that was included in Enchanted by Nature was super already like the one that we have in Island Living, for example. More hair care products just for putting around your home, such as afro combs. I feel like we need more actual like natural hairs alongside different braids. I mean, we don't have goddess braids or anything like that, which I feel are so like in trend right now. Honestly, there are a bunch of different Black custom content creators that they could collaborate with to bring hairstyles officially into the game. More disability rep needed in Create Sim. Prosthetics, for example. I always feel like we need more scarring and skin details in general for diversity and inclusion. Pronouns added in other languages, and also they need to be made more visible in the game. They should be in the tooltip where like a Sim's name is shown, or if you open up like the relationship panel, maybe even gameplay for gender or sexuality questioning and research. Let my Sims do the age-old test of whether they are gay or not. Give them a BuzzFeed quiz. Also, more familial choices in Create Sim, such as in-laws, cousins, etc. I think it's really a bit hard to make like big families. And then for like gameplay, I think more disability rep, even though we have some in Create Sim. Honestly, they don't add anything to gameplay. I do think that they could even just add moodlets, even though I don't think moodlets should be considered gameplay. I do think that that could be used to like educate Simmers on what those medical devices are actually used for. And also just like canes, walking aids, wheelchairs, ramps for accessibility, hand railings, sign language. I would love it if Sims could learn sign language and they do some animations, especially if you have a Sim in your household who is wearing a hearing aid. And I also just think we need like more holiday traditions for customization and representation. Like, holidays are severely lacking. You have 6 tokens to use to vote on more of the following to be included as part of free content updates: trees or plants native, regional furniture, cultural decorations, regional architecture pieces, doors, windows, tiles, etc., and regional clutter. Clutter, I feel like we've got so much of recently, and I know it's not like regional and stuff, but I just feel like clutter, maybe this isn't for me considering I'm not a builder. I know how many like Southeast Asian simmers were like so glad that we had a squat toilet in the game, and I do feel like the furniture really adds a lot, so I'm gonna appoint 2 there, and then I'm gonna appoint maybe like 1, and then but then what's the difference between like regional clutter and cultural decorations? Like, I feel like they're quite similar. Sorry, the native like plants and trees, if they're in the world, they're gonna be in debug anyway, you know? I don't know. When, not if, we get new worlds. Architecture is important, but again, we need variation in geographical locations, world to back them up. Oh no, only 8 tokens for gameplay? This is not gonna go well. More global and culturally specific recipes, regional cooking appliances, cultural festivals and holidays. Already, I want to put at least like 2 into there. Rituals and customs, careers tied to cultural or social context, hobbies around music, dance, and sports from different cultures, representation of neurodiversity, and regional and cultural traits or aspirations. I'm gonna give 1 to that just because I feel like traits and aspirations in The Sims 4 aren't the strongest. I definitely would love to see representation of neurodiversity. Recipes, I know, are important, but also I do feel like they have done an awful lot when it comes to recipes in free base game updates. Obviously, it's not representing like everyone within the game so far, but I think right now in my mind, because they have done it like so much, that is definitely lower down on my list. I'm gonna put 1 into regional cooking appliances. Like, honestly, even like bigger pots and stuff, it just feels like we don't even have stuff that represents people when they are cooking and like using utensils. Rituals and customs feels kind of similar to festivals and holidays for me. I want to put 2 into here so badly. Maybe, this is so hard. Like, I'm already struggling. Like, I do feel like careers are also important. Do I get rid of this and put like 0 in there, and then instead I put 2 into here? Because then I've used my 8 total, but I've not done traits or aspirations. But again, I feel like they're not the strongest in the game anyway. So really, are we missing out if we don't get those? How interested are you in seeing free items added to The Sims 4 that are associated with each of the following elements of Caribbean interest? Extremely Spring Festival, Chinese New Year. Definitely mostly interested. Wiccan cultural events, solstice and equinox. I'm gonna say mostly interested. Wreaths, candles, simmer pots, etc. I feel like we already have some/most of those. Triple moon necklace, Wiccan clothing and accessories. It feels like for so long they've strayed away or like used the excuse of like, we don't want anything to be too specific or like too religious in our game, and now they're like, oh, but we're gonna actually like refer to this as Wiccan, which is a religion. And even though we've had obviously like Winterfest in our game, and I know that I've had some commenting on my page like, if we get hijabs within the game, then we should be able to celebrate like the birth of Jesus. And I'm like, you can literally Winterfest, whilst it doesn't really have like anything to connotate like that being celebrating the birth of Jesus. That is pretty much what Winterfest is. Like, calm down. So I am finding it a little aggravating that I feel like they've said they won't focus on religion, and then like, oh. But then again, in seasons, we do also have the menorah, and you can light those candles. So it is like, we have these traditions, but we don't refer to it as like any specific religion. Wiccan clothing and accessories, I'm gonna put slightly interested. Every day in my game is International Women's Day. I'm always out here celebrating the women. Mother's Day, I feel like we could already technically do Mother's Day, but you can't really choose like a gender to celebrate in the game, which I don't know if that feels more inclusive or like less inclusive, but I feel like you could maybe already do Mother's Day, so I'm only gonna say like slightly interested. Kwanzaa for sure. Yule, Earth Day, I'm so sorry. I also care about the earth. I'm gonna put that in extremely interested. And then, hold on, let me find out how to pronounce. Nowruz, Iranian or Persian New Year. Definitely mostly interested. Are there any specific cultural observations or events you would like to see represented? I've gone Ramadan, Holi, Kwanzaa, and Pride. I know technically you can currently basically get away with Kwanzaa and Pride within the game. And also on this, being able to like copy over custom holidays and stuff from save to saves would be great. Which items would you like to spend your tokens on? Children's clothes around the world, masculine clothing, more facial features, hair options, wavy, curly or textured hair, medical or adaptive wearables, elder clothing, gender neutral clothing, skin tones, undertones and textures, and traditional and Why are they doing this to me? They know how much Creator Sim means to me. Elder clothing. After that elder pack, I don't want it. I don't want it. I can dress my elders myself. Thank you very much. Gender neutral clothing, playing around with cuts and fits, I think is so important. I think wavy, curly, textured hair. I'm gonna put 1 for medical or adaptive wearables. Honestly, I wish that they would tie this more into the game. Not that I wouldn't want to see more, because obviously I want people to represent themselves, but I would just like it to tie in more. Masculine clothing, I'm definitely gonna throw 2 in there. More facial features, actually, I kind of want to give 3 to, but there's like so much I would want to do. Skin tones, undertones, and textures. I actually like the skin tones right now. I just wish they focused on like makeup a little bit more, and I have been noticing like a little bit of blotchiness again in the skin tones, so maybe they could go back and revise them. I always want more hair options, but you know, children's clothes from around the world and like ceremonial clothing, this is all so important. What do you mean? Facial features, I think, are lacking. I was literally just talking the other day. I would love them to play around with presets more often than they already do. I guess masculine clothing in base game updates. Don't get me wrong, love them to play around with all of these things that I talked about, like cuts, lengths, where items sit on a sim's body, how it flows, hangs, amount of fabric, and like textures used to create texture and layers. I want them to focus on that in base game as well, and I do think that things have started to look better when it comes to like the base game items that we have been getting. Even in that update that we got a few years ago, they got way more than we like ever really had for masculine clothing. But I am actually going to throw this second point onto traditional and ceremonial clothing from global cultures. Kits are very good at working on both frames, needs to be the standard without compromising the amount or individuality available for both frames. Don't just fill the masculine tag up with Creator Sim that was made for feminine but works well on masculine. That also goes for children's hairs, and like I would love to see the individuality of children's hairs return, because right now they just minimize adult hairs and just make it work on kids. How interested are you value in seeing the following types of Create a Sim features added to The Sims 4 as part of free updates. Absolutely extremely interested in afro textured hair, wavy hair, also natural hair colors with grays, mostly interested. Natural brown hair colors? I mean, I feel like we have brown. We have like 4 versions of brown. It's enough browns. Definitely mostly interested for curly hair. Styles for masculine Sims. I would say somewhat interested. I do really want stuff for masculine Sims, but also I feel like they just need to start working on that in packs and make that better. Natural eye colors, honestly, extremely interested. Give me more and better looking eyes. They could have updated eyes by now and they have chosen not to. Natural black hair colors. Obviously, it's definitely a little bit better than what we initially had with like the blue black. I would still like to see more, especially if you throw it in with the natural grays. Natural red hair colors. I do think I am somewhat interested in more reds. Blondes, I'm gonna say slightly interested. I do like the kind of like dirty blonde, like I guess mousy brown that we got, and I do feel like they look a lot more natural. Textured body hair, boom. Facial hair for feminine Sims, extremely, and eyes with cataracts, I would say mostly interested, but I do think there are other things that they could do with eyes before cataracts. For example, even just like prosthetic eyes. Bandages, I actually quite like the bandages that we have in the game. I'm gonna say somewhat interested, especially for like gameplay. Like if you do want to tell the story of someone transitioning, maybe going through top surgery, then bandages, actually mostly interested. Medical clutter, somewhat interested. Heart monitors, I was thinking of like an actual heart monitor, like inside a sim, which by the way, open heart surgery scars, we don't have those. It depends what they mean, but probably not at all interested. If they mean like an Apple Watch or like a Fitbit, then no. Medical tattoos or bracelets. Guide rails, I would definitely love. And stoma bags, definitely extremely interested. Head protection for falls. I guess infants do have the little like cap available to them. I'm gonna say somewhat interested. Really wish I had just copy and pasted my answers right now, but I've said more scars, especially surgery scars, open heart surgery, cleft lip, prosthetic limbs and eyes, more natural hair colors, pastels, purples, lime greens, etc. The lackingness of unnatural colors needs to be studied for having a very gay fan base and also a very like young fan base. Sims 4 is not doing any justice to unnatural hairs or like dyed hair. Dyed pattern buzz cuts, more natural hairlines, such as like, you know, like more like V hairlines, and also more balding hairs in general. We barely get them. Move medical content to a new category, not under accessories, so that they can apply to every outfit and not just like certain ones. Allow Sims to wear earrings with hearing aids, oxygen tubes, braces, canes, walking aids. I mean, everything that I said in my other answer, basically. How do you typically hear about the free updates? Sims, Discord, blog posts, social media. That's actually a lie. I don't really check the Discord all that often. General social media, definitely video content creators. Sims 4 main menu, which describes your awareness. Pride inspired clothing or decor, I was aware. Eastern European inspired content, I was aware. Additional nails, honestly, I forgot when that launched. Like, that one was kind of hidden, in my opinion. New swatches to existing swimwear, new lock hairstyle, the addition of 2 new colors, I was aware. Vitiligo, hell yeah. And wavy hairstyles, I was also aware. When free content is added to the game, I download it right away. I wait till it's convenient time for me, or I wait to download until there's a mandatory free update. Yes, absolutely. Where do you hear about them? Honestly, blog posts, social media, video content creators, Sims 4 main menu. It pops up in-game notifications. Even. How interested would you be participating in community votes? Definitely interested, but also I think when it comes to like diversity, sometimes it's like hard because you don't want to feel like you're pitting like one culture against another. Basically, I think it's great that the Sims community can feel like they're having their voice heard. Very, very diverse community, but I wouldn't want them to just be forgotten about if they didn't get many votes. Yes, I am. How interested in Discord? Not interested at all. I feel like I barely check Discord, so I can't imagine what it's like for like the regular player. Didn't see my own sexuality listed there. Just to give you the options: asexual, bisexual, heterosexual / straight, homosexual, gay, lesbian, pansexual, queer, an orientation not listed here, or prefer not to answer. And then gender is male, female, non-binary, or prefer not to answer. Submit. Apparently, this one doesn't take as long, but this is The Sims 4 new content. Which of the following, if any, were reasons you stopped playing or have taken a break? Now, we all know I've never taken a break from The Sims 4 in my life, the whole 11 years that I have been recording and uploading to YouTube. However, there have been times where I have literally just rage quit the game, and there are also times when, like, my creativeness runs out, you know? Like, it's a struggle sometimes, let's say, to play this game every day of my life. So I've kind of gone off, like, if I did take a break those times that I've been struggling with it and haven't just like worked through it, what would have been the main reasons why? There are not enough free updates. I feel this particularly recently. I feel like we used to get more free updates and bigger free updates, and I feel like they've really been lacking the last like 2 or 3 years. I would rather play other games. I mean, it's given. I'm on my Fortnite BS right now. Don't ask. Content updates ignored communities I care about for sure. Diversity in the game lacks the depth I am personally looking for. I was not able to play the storylines that I wanted. This sounds so first world problem, but do you remember when I full on like quit my Snowy Escape Let's Play because I was just like, there's not enough content here. There's literally not enough to make like a pack dedicated like gameplay of this. Like there is so little to do in Snowy Escape, and it was because they didn't integrate packs well when it came to Snowy Escape. I wanted to be a famous snowboarder because snowboarding wasn't a career that they added, which is really cool and stuff like that. And then I wanted to basically use the Get Famous drone to like shoot my snowboarder going down the hills and stuff. That wasn't a possibility. Therefore, I couldn't earn money off snowboarding, couldn't even enter snowboarding competitions, so I peaced out. The game felt too repetitive. Yikes. I felt like I'd done everything there was to do. I know, I play this game every single day of my life. People are like, I bet there's still things you haven't done in The Sims 4. I think one of the only things that I haven't done in The Sims 4 is win the lottery. And that's just RNG, and there's not really anything I can do to start that or like to make that happen. I ran out of ideas of what to do. Definitely, I think that's all tied into like, you know, lack of depth, lack of new stuff being added, and the game was feeling outdated. Create a Sim specifically, she is falling behind. I ran out of ideas. Major influence. I was not able to play the storylines. Primary reason I exited out of that. I felt like I had done everything there was to do. I'm gonna say some influence. I feel like the community keeps the game fresh for me personally, like with using their creativity to come up with challenges and stuff. Game felt too repetitive. Major. The diversity. Major. There are not enough free updates. Some influence. And then contents updates ignored communities I care about. You indicated having other games you would rather play. Fortnite and Date Everything currently. That's me. Honestly, also, I'm gonna throw in like Stardew and Animal Crossing because I feel like when I personally am going through like a flux in how much I want to play the game, those games are probably the ones that like take me back in. They're like, oh, you're having like issues with Sims? Come back to us. I would start playing Sims 4 again if this issue was addressed. Strongly agree. agree. To what extent do you disagree? I would start playing Sims 4 if the diversity in the game lacks the depth I am looking for. Strongly agree. If there was more stuff to do, different cultures, different ways of celebrating, etc., of course I'd be playing the game more. It would feel more realistic in my storylines. But that also comes down to like the animations. All of these surveys feel really intertwined with each other, and I do like that. Honestly, cross-pack compatibility is the main one. I know this seems like so first world problem, but I just think it just shows off the like lack of thought that sometimes goes into how things could supplement in packs. Like, you couldn't make money off being a snowboarder, but like, hey, we have this thing that's available that does allow you to make money. Why don't we apply that onto this new system that we've added? I just feel like so many of the packs are so individual to like their release nowadays that it's very, very restrictive and limiting to my imagination and stories. Start playing Sims 4 if I ran out of ideas of what to do was addressed. I would say slightly agree, but it's kind of more difficult to do that. I feel like they just need to add more content, but also make it like integrate well into what we have. I felt like I had done everything there was to do. Again, these ones are all quite difficult because it's kind of like about new content and just like continuing to do that, but making it work well with what we already have. The game felt too repetitive. Honestly, even just like animations and stuff, and the Sims feeling so similar to one another. No challenge, no consequence, nothing to spice up a save when I feel like I've already explored so much of what the game has to offer. All linked to repetitive animation, systems being introduced that don't, in the grand scheme of things, really change how my sim is affected or how I play the game. Ooh, this was a loaded question. What ways could The Sims address not enough free updates? More SDX drops with content that Simmers have been asking for. They could even do that after a general release. Like, once they hear like the feedback of like create a sim or like build and bind mode assets that were maybe missed from a pack, just be like, okay, we found these like 10 items that you maybe would have liked in this pack. Here you go. Why don't you have them now? Like, I know they're a couple of weeks late. We're sorry about that, but they're free and everyone can have them, even if you just have base game. It's not really tied to the gameplay of the new pack or like a system of a new pack, but it's just like these smaller assets that we have heard your feedback on and have been like, look, we know they were missing. We apologize. Here's a little treat for you. Bigger and more frequent base game updates. These feel like they've been lacking last 2 to 3 years in comparison to how many we used to get and the breadth of those. Would love to slow down on paid content to allow updates to increase stability and fix bugs. Also, I feel like no one ever really talks about this bar me, not to be a pick me, but I feel like in comparison to build and buy mode and gameplay, Create a Sim is just falling behind so quickly. When it comes to the UI, when it comes to the assets that are included, like the fact that we haven't had updated unnatural hairstyles in the year of 2025, ridiculous. And also just like the systems. I know we finally have the like apply all, and that was such an update that was needed, but I feel like there's so many things that they could add to Create a Sim that just made it flow better. Oh, this is the same as the other one. Oh my goodness gracious me. Again, I should have just copy and pasted everything. Oh wow, they have actually, there's quite a bit of overlap between both of these that we just took. And then again, just about you, entirely optional, this portion. This was a way longer video than I was anticipating. I'll be so real. I really didn't think this was gonna take me as long. I actually didn't think these were gonna be as in-depth as they were. I'm so glad that it finally feels like these things are on their mind. Like, I know that they've been on their mind. I know that they see the feedback. They see the petitions online. They know that Simmers want these. Now it finally, hopefully, feels like things could be moving in that direction. So I am really, really glad that they've opened up all of these to pretty much everyone. So like I said, I'm gonna leave a link down below. I know that they posted about these on Discord, but that's why I wanted to make this video, just to cast like a wider net out there, tell you lot that these exist, and also obviously make you aware that you can have your say. If you've been feeling left out, if you feel like you cannot create yourself, you cannot represent yourself or your friends, your family, your customs, your culture, please, please, please leave your responses to both of these. I know there is some overlap, so maybe if you want to like type it up in a Word document and then like copy and paste, probably should have done that myself, but didn't know that there was going to be such an overlap. They actually probably, you know, want to show the bigwigs at EA like, hey, look, this is what people are interested in, this is what people want to see, like we are proposing this, this, and this, and we feel like it's going to have this effect on the players. We think it's going to bring in this many new people, or like people back to the game who might not play it because they've been disappointed in the lack of representation that we've had. And I think that is extremely, extremely important. So please, if you want your voices heard, do these, and I have everything crossed that we will be able to see the results of these soon within our games. Thank you, Sims team, for creating this. Thank you for letting people know. Thank you for all taking part. I wish you luck. I appreciate you all, and I will speak to you all in my next one. Bye now.